In Elden Ring there are more than 150 bosses and more than 1,000 different enemies around the lands that will try to stop you. But not many of them are actually mandatory to beat the game, so I went on a journey to fight as few as possible. And considering that no enemies means no runes and no levels, it's not going to be easy. The class choice is actually very impactful, because we won't fight Renalla, so we can't ever respect statistics, but we still take the samurai like there are any other options in this game. Stats are fine, the Uchigatana is very strong, can't go wrong with it. We have the usual run around the lands between to upgrade our weapon, but this time it's a bit longer than usual, because we can't get the unlimited upgrade stone 1 and 2 since they require defeating an enemy, and we also can't beat Greyol, that would give us about 30 levels, so to compensate for them we need a stronger weapon. Did I mention that the first enemy is going to be Radahn? Like the kids yearn for the mines and play Minecraft, we spend about 2 hours gathering materials and scavenging graveyards, but then we have a plus 10 weapon and we are ready. And then a level 6 stone put right in front of the arena reminds me that we are probably under-equipped. It's like the developers are trying to say that it's a bad idea, but thankfully I never get hints, in life or in games. We can't summon the boys, because even if they aren't enemies, I would still feel kind of guilty, since they are basically cannon fodder here. But the damage we deal is actually fine. It's not outlandish or anything, but it's serviceable, and usually that's enough. We take a lot of damage, because our defenses are also based on our total level that is low, but we don't get one-shot killed. Trust me, I would love to milk this fight for like 7 minutes with some juicy mid-roll ads now that it's the end of December, but let's make a deal. You subscribe to the channel and help me out. I cut this fight short, since it was a first try and the overall strategy was show up with a good enough weapon and avoid getting hit. We got the bleed. We stagger him instead. And remember that if you call your shots, it's not luck, it's skill. Radahn falls, you subscribed, and that meteor didn't kill anyone. Don't worry about it. Now we want to get into the capital, since we have to go there to progress the game. And there are multiple ways to do it, so let me take out the good old planning board. We could go there from the back door, but that means defeating the Mimic Tier, the Gargoyles and Fierce Buddies, that are arguably either like 8 enemies or 5 enemies or 3 enemies, depends on how we count, if it's health bars or phases or fights, but it's still like a bunch of enemies and I hate the Gargoyles. So that's a no-go. Let's go for the usual path, that requires 2 great runes. We have one from Radahn, but to get the second one we have multiple options. There's Renalla, but the Red Wolf before her is mandatory. There's Godric, but Margit is there up until after the capital. There's Rykard that requires either the noble or glitches, but we don't want to do that here. So it may look like we need to beat 2 more enemies, but there is a 4th hidden path, because we can go for Varre's questline that will allow us to reach the Lord of Blood, one of the strongest bosses in the game, but, and that's the important part, one boss. To start the quest, we need a great rune, and we have it already, but you might think that we also need to kill an NPC that he wants us to invade in order to proceed. And this isn't super common knowledge, but if you invade him 3 times and without fighting you just stand there and die, for Varre that's good enough, and he lets us into his weird little cult. We have to do a couple more errands for him, but like no killing required, so no worries. Okay, so we made it to the boss fight, but this guy has 18,000 HP and we have, let me check, 1450 total, so we are slightly outmatched. There is a small but significant optimization we can do here, in that we are allowed to let the dogs rest for a bit, just have to remove the skulls, and in the shrines we can duplicate the only remembrance we have, and that's like 120k runes with basically no effort required. We spend some more time in the mines to upgrade our weapon, but I quickly realized that there isn't much you can do when you can't defeat anyone. First of all, we can't get Rotten Breath because we don't have any Dragon Hearts, since apparently it's an important organ, and the host dies if you remove it. We can't get the Rotten Rapier or Dagger, since they respectively require an NPC or the Mimic to die, and the Mimic also prevents us from getting the Bleed Infusion. I mean, we can't even get the tier that allows you to take less damage in the phase transition, so that's 3 heals gone. Plus, beetles are considered enemies, so it's not like we can get overpowered Ashes of War. Also, I know we could summon the Rotten Stray, but I'm not using Spirit Ashes in this challenge. And you are probably thinking, come on Francis, give us the tech already. We got it, the fight is hard. Now you can be like, oh but actually there is this weird interaction that we can get that basically wins the fight by itself. And yeah, sure, that would be right in this case. So here's a real strategy. Come close, we can't let everyone know. If you look at the right side of your controller, there should be a button that when pressed at the same time as a direction with the analog stick, will let the character be immune to damage for 13 frames. That's almost half a second. It's insanely good, and we just have to understand when an attack is coming for us and avoid it. Yeah, there is no strategy. I mean, we can use Blood Grease because we can farm infinite of it without killing enemies, and the weapon art is pretty cool, so we leave it for phase 2, but this is just an old school beat them with a stick until they fall fight. It took a long time to pull this off, and if you want to watch it all, you can find it in the live section of the channel. I streamed them all. Stagger? Stagger?
Now we stagger, bleed, and he's dead.
If you call the stagger every time, you always get a good clip. 2 great runes obtained. We now have to enter the capital, and as always I have the bad habit of reading chat.
I wonder if you can make the Golem Archer kill the Draconic Tree Sentinel. Oh, wait. Oh no. Do I have to do this now?
Yes, I had to.
Mr. Giant? Give me a dream?
If you goad someone into attacking you, make them chase you in a highway and it just so happens that a car hits them, is it considered murder? Yeah, probably. Also, I might have stabbed them a couple of times before the arrow came down. That is probably a couple more years of jail time, if I were to guess.
Also, in case you didn't know, gold free, easier than the Lord of Blood, so it shouldn't be a problem.
And it wasn't a problem. Same thing goes for Morgoth. He's a bit stronger than Godfrey, but we are definitely overleveled for now thanks to the 500k souls from Moog. And don't worry, it's not going to last for long. I also tried my best to die in this fight. I honestly don't think I dodged 2 attacks in a row, but we still made it through. He talks to us after the fight is over, so I'm not sure why we are counting it as a kill, but then we have to go into the Frozen Lands, where we have an interesting interaction. In that, when you get invaded, you can't use the horse and automatically unequip it. But we also can't fight the invader, so we just have to run away and hope we are fast enough. After we get enough distance, he will go away though, and what's cool is that we won't get invaded again for now, so we can come back with the horse and get the final smithing stone here. We can do some optimization now though, because since Morgoth has fallen, Margit isn't there anymore, meaning we can enter Stormveil Castle without having to fight. This also means we have to go through the main gate, because else there's a knight we have to take down, but a couple of ballista bolts to the chest never hurt anyone.
Also, obviously, if they blow up, not my fault, it's friendly fire.
Here we can get the Wet Blade that lets us deal some more damage, and the Godskin Prayer Book that allows us to learn Black Flame and Black Flame Blade. They both deal some damage, scaling on the opponent's max HP, so they will be useful later on when enemies start to have infinite health. Or like, right now, since we have to fight the giant. Phase 1 was fine. Our weapon deals enough damage that we chunk him out consistently, so it doesn't take much time and isn't really dangerous here. But we need to be careful in Phase 2. Since defenses scale with level in this game, we risk getting one-shot killed, so I didn't want to face him head-on, and instead I went for the attacks on the legs, that deal a lot less damage, but it's also a lot easier to dodge his attacks. Black Flame is helpful even though it doesn't deal that much damage. And when we have no more focus, we switch to the Bleed Grease. That, along with the weapon's natural bleed, is enough to take him out. Melina tells us that she doesn't count as a kill since she's not an enemy, and as always we have to fight a wall called the Godskin Duo. We need something more than pure damage to take them out, and this time we went for the Blade of Saint Trina. It requires 14 intelligence, but we can achieve that with the Physic Flask, even if it means we can only fight for 3 minutes with it. This weapon has an innate sleep build-up, but its Ash of War allows us to double it for some time, along with a purple mist that may or may not do some more sleep. Honestly, I'm not really sure. We won't use it to fight though, because we barely have enough runes to survive, and we for sure can't use some to upgrade it just for this fight. But it's just 4 hits to put them to sleep, so it still works pretty well. Also, according to the weapon's description, Saint Trina had a weird gender, and that's a good enough reason to use the weapon. The katana does its job really well, probably because I only level dexterity, and every time I see these two guys an insane rage starts boiling inside me. And I think we don't need sleep after the first one falls, since it's only 4 hits to proc, but it's still 4 hits. And if we just do them with the Uchigatana, we deal more damage than a sleep and a riposte. We do have some sleep pots with us though. I don't spam them since they are kind of annoying to craft, but if with them we are sure to get a win, then we can use them. Also, I'm not sure if they should count as 2 enemies, 1 enemy, 4 enemies, since they all die at the end anyway, but it doesn't really matter since it's a mandatory fight. I went with 1 enemy since it's only 1 big F-bar. Maliketh is next, and I know I'm glossing over most areas, but they are pretty easy to get through without having to kill, and even if they aren't, it's not like we can have a particular strategy. We just have to try it enough times until we make it. Here I pulled a plateau peak classic. I went into the fight with Maliketh with 3 less heals because I didn't stop at the Grace, and then I choked when I needed only 1 hit to win, only to repeatedly die in all the following tries. I mean, I even called it before the fight.
Okay, I'm not too scared, honestly, of the Maliketh fight, and I'm going to regret these words in like 50 seconds.
We cannot get the item that parries him, since it requires defeating Bernal, so we are pretty much on our own. I still have a couple of aces up my sleeve though, so first of all we go and get the Jumping Attack Talisman. That is annoying to reach since they can shoot us out of the skies, but I should have got like 10 hours ago. And then in a Catacomb in Liurnia we can get a second Uchigatana. It didn't really make sense to get it before, because we had so few runes that we couldn't upgrade it either way, but now leveling up costs a lot, so we can spare some. The biggest problem was actually finding enough level 1 and 2 upgrade materials, since we can't kill the enemies that lets us buy unlimited of them, and there aren't that many in the game. So we had to do the classic check all the merchants in the area multiple times in case they have some spare. A thing that all of you that tried to buy a PS5 for this Christmas season are probably used to. Neither of them are fully upgraded, but now with jump attacks we deal a lot more damage since we hit with both, and the recovery time is almost the same as with only one. These attacks work very well against him, because if we have a good timing, we can hit 3 or even 4 times in a row, dodging attacks with the jump. The damage is great, and even if I had one of the worst beginnings of phase 2, I think, ever, he did a couple of slow attacks in a row, so taking him down was really easy. But this is a feast or famine fight. Either you are aggressive and take him out in 30 seconds, or he puts you on the back foot, you can't get back your momentum, and it's over. That I also discovered is a good description of every amateur boxing fight. I'm sure these ashes covering the city, first of all, didn't kill anyone, second of all, weren't my fault, and even if they did kill somebody and were my fault, a hot girl told me to do it, so I can't be blamed. I tried to convince Gideon to join my cause, or at least let me cook and don't jump into the fight, but he had none of it, so we had to take him out, and Godfrey is next. Also, I'd like to note that Morgoth dies now, so nobody could pin the murder on us, but for some reason Godfrey doesn't share the same sentiment. I wasn't sure about this fight, and then I saw how much damage we deal.
Okay, yeah, no, we're going to slaughter this poor old man.
We had a couple of very specific interactions here. First, we got to phase 2 on a riposte, and this means that the game didn't reset our position, so the phase began with us not in front of him, but to the side. Then I choked as usual and died, And then we got to phase 2 again, but we staggered him in the attack that caused the phase transition, so nothing happens, but we can hear the stagger sound when phase 2 begins. Nothing too crazy, but they are kind of rare events, so I think it makes sense to point them out. Then I almost died exactly the same way again, but this time I remembered I can dodge attacks. Here I decided that not only we wanted to beat the game, but we'll have to beat Malenia too, so we are going to do the fish first and the final hardest gauntlet later. Also, getting here with only 10 enemies defeated is kind of crazy. We are barely at level 100, and now that I think about it, it's not that low of a level honestly. The damage against Radagon is very good, so we can trade some hits with absolutely no worries, and we handily get to the Elden Beast. Now we can take out the Black Flame, so easily forgotten, because the fish has a lot of HP, so it's probably worth it. I say probably because it's kind of impossible to understand how much damage it does, but at this point I am in a rage-induced frenzy because 40 minutes ago I was in the Maliketh fight, so I can't really spend too much time analyzing if what we are doing is optimal. If it works, it's good, and in this case it worked pretty well, as you can see. There is a teeth-clenching moment where we have no more heals and we need one last onslaught to take it out, and we almost die by leaving it at 1 HP. We outfish the fish in the end, but don't click away because we have one last very hard part of the challenge. We begin by going to Castle Sol, where you might have noticed we don't have the easiest fight in the world if we want to not kill anyone. One could argue that they are just spirits and we can take them out, but I think spirits have feelings too, so I want to avoid it if possible. And it's possible, because if we manage to let the commander drop to half HP, he will go into phase 2 and unsummon them, so that's our goal. We could goad them into fighting for us with bewitching branches, but I think if we do that and then they die, it wouldn't be fair, so we have to manually hit the commander enough times. They can be really annoying, because usually the one with 2 swords will be on the aggression and the other one will stay behind to defend the commander, but the moment we get close to our target, they will all start attacking together. They won't wait and they will probably stunlock us for a bit. Don't think that the commander has a passive role in this. He will hit often and hard. So our best approach is to wait for the one with 2 swords to attack, dodge him and rush for the commander, hoping to get a hit in and maybe only get one back in return. And when we think all hope is lost, he transitions to phase 2, so we can finally fight in a 1v1. We don't have any more heals though, and after getting Frostbite we know that if we are going to get it again, we'll die. And he knows that too, since he started only using delayed AoE attacks very hard to dodge. Thankfully, we get a good timing, and with jump attacks, if we fall to the left, we automatically avoid his banner poke. Our damage is really good, and after he misses a slow attack, we can stagger him and the fight is over. We only had to dirty our hands with one guy. We get the other half of the medallion while being mere witnesses to a murder. Nothing we could have done about that. We kick an archer down a roof, still alive I'd like to point out, and it's time for the Helix Tree. The tree itself is not too hard, even though enemy position is annoying at times and requires some skill to dodge, but then we have to fight Loretta. I know that it's all a build up for Malenia, so my tone is momentous and the music is in a crescendo. But Loretta is Loretta. I got it like 2 times total and after less than 10 jumps, she falls. There are now enemies trying to stop us, ballistas, rot and shrimps. But at this point we are focused on the last objective of the run, the hardest boss of all. Malenia. We strip down because we want to have the longer roll in order to dodge the waterfowl dance, and now it's on. Malenia is always like this. We have to dodge 4, 5, 6 attacks in a row, and as soon as we see her slowing down and stopping, we have to jump in, hit and still be ready because she's relentless, and we'll have to return to dodging immediately after. Rolling away means we are very likely to get hit, so we have to always be up close and personal, no matter how many HP we have or how scared we feel. If we, for some reason, miss an attack, then she won't flinch, and we don't have enough time to dodge after it, so consider it a clean hit on us, meaning that we lost some progress and at least 1 heal. What changes here, compared to most Malenia fights, is that our level is low, so we lose a lot of HP every time we get hit, and we don't have a super optimized build since everything is locked behind enemies. We just have some frost and some fire greases. The first because they are actually really good, and the latter because they look cool. And if we want to be super precise and technical, we should apply double freeze every time, but like, who cares, let's just swing sharp sticks. I did a pretty bad phase 1. I used 9 heals out of 11 and the hard part begins now, but my mind was in the right space.
You did a awful try, but it's fine. You just clutch it now, just don't get it, right?
We get in and we can deal a lot of free damage, but then the dance begins and I start to feel some nerves, since a single mistake means we lose a lot of progress and like 3 mistakes means we go back home. I open my heart to her in the middle of the fight like we are at couples counseling.
I hate you, Malenia, just so we're on like even terms.
And then we get a breather with her flower attack. We used half the heals we had for this phase and she's at half HP, so I like my odds, and I commit the Frost Grease. It's useless up until we actually freeze her, but when that happens, she takes a bunch of damage on the spot and increased damage for a minute. I lose focus for a second and I am now out of flasks, and her most annoying attack means we get it again, but she doesn't heal from that at least. I want to get this over with, so I commit to an attack when I shouldn't, that she just tanks and trades. We are officially one hit from defeat, and I'm doing voiceover because I was basically completely silent for the whole duration of the fight, aside from the occasional calling a stagger that won't happen. I apparently can survive a kick to the back. Good to know. And with her last flower attack, she gives us the win. The only way I can lose now is if I run in too early and get hit by the flower's lingering hitbox. And unfortunately, I'm probably too dumb to play this game and the nerves get to me. Nah, I'm kidding, we always clutch those, but like, imagine? And with that, I'll say that we can beat Elden Ring with as few enemies as possible, unless I mess this up royally and there is some other route we could take, so it's all wasted time. In case, let me know and I won't redo the challenge, subscribe to not get the notification.